October 18, 2023, the question was about spinners, and then we'll try to get to 3350 engine bearings for what I do know about that. So the spinner, hang on, turn you around. Sorry for that. So this, my version is, this is a 34-inch spinner. There's a 38-inch spinner that we use. So two different spinners, 34, 38. They were made up, I think, by Nelson Ezell out of Texas. And the first one that I'm aware of showed up on Howard Pardue's Sea Fury. And if you ever notice, that airplane has a really tight gap, very small gap between the spinner and the cowling. And that was a 38-inch spinner. And these are carbon fiber, as I understand it. And they're definitely not metal. So we bought, our airplane came with a 34, I think, and we ended up trading it for a 38. Or buying a 38 or something. There was a trade in there somewhere. But we ended up, my recollection is we ended up with a big one. And carbon fiber, 4-blade, works great, lasts a long time, was orange. And I think we traded that one away when we put the DC-7 cowling on it, because we needed the 34. Because then it would get us down to the real small gap. But the DC-7 cowling is much smaller in the front. And so the big spinner was not going to work. So we were able to trade it to Nelson or somebody that was, it probably was Nelson. And so this one, I see it's blue, and poking in there, it is definitely the carbon fiber one and not the metal one that the Sanders are running. Now, I think the Sanders, when they build theirs up for the 4-blader, I think they take stockers, the metal ones, and they use what they can off it, because I think they're in like 3 pieces. The nose part, and then there's a line, and then the where the blades come through, then there's a line, and then further back. I think that's right, something along those lines. But I think they're able to take it apart and remanufacture it from a 5-blade to a 4-blade, because they really like having stock stuff, right? And they're very good at it. So then they have the metal, basically a stock Sea Fury cowling as close as you could, spinner as close as you could get. But this is the smaller of the bunch, Sea Fury cowling. And so it would stand to reason that this one is the same size as a stocker. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you could really just look at the gaps of one with a stock one and say this one, and then you'd know for sure. You'd know real close. So that's what I know about spinners. Anything more than that, I don't know. I know that Furious with the 4360 on it back in the day had some kind of a P51H spinner, and it was tiny, and it looked really funny. But these look pretty good. So the other thing was about the on a 3350, and what I know about this, and I've just about got Ken on board to maybe tell us some stories, but shh, we won't tell him that, and he's not watching the channel. He knows more about this stuff than I do for sure. But it was my understanding that Pratt & Whitney had the process down for, and they had the patent on the main bearing process. How you put the main bearings together was a big deal. And they had the patent on the process, and Curtis Wright had to license it from them or something. And then lately, go forward to modern times, this is my version, that when somebody was reproducing the bearings, they didn't get all the coatings right on the bearings. And so finally, somebody went through and started using the Pratt & Whitney process from back in the day and getting them right. And in fact, I remember, I think it was Anderson Aeromotive that bought 20 engines or something out of Vietnam, still in cans, because they had the original main bearings, right? And so they were just bought, they didn't pay a lot of money for them, but then they could just take those engines apart, use those bearings in their new builds, and then they'd be good to go, because they were basically new old stock ones. But I'm told that since they have figured out how to make the bearings last and how to do the proper process, and that it works good now. So the 3350 should be, any of the new builds are all going to be fine on the bearings, and that shouldn't be a problem. And we do this because I knew that because Dennis has a 3350 he tried to sell us a while back, but we did not end up purchasing it. But I think Ken went through the whole discussion with him about this and why they fail and how they fail. And Brother Ken's good like that. He's not going to do anything without the full research, because he just loves that stuff, and then fully understanding what's going on. So anyway, I will continue to try to get him on board with telling us stories. Cheers.